Joe, I was just going to say, tied to the survey, one of the points I had was, you know, I've read the statement several times, and I've sat in several sessions discussing it, and it's still kind of very fluid and flowery, and there's a lot to be kind of interpreted. So I would hope in the survey, and I know you guys are smart and you're putting it down, but there's some very direct questions in there or statements in there that give the people that are taking the survey the opportunity to really think about what their position is on something. Hope it's just not like you know, I feel this way about the sexuality.
No. Here's how we're going to do it. And you know, again, there's various ways to do this. This is how we've got it done. We've got it written right now. We are going to put the congregation in the place of the church-wide assembly, and the congregation is going to have to vote on those four. I say vote individually. They vote their conscience on each of those four issues. So I hear what you're saying. I don't want to create new questions because you know, I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole of trying to interpret ways of asking you or leading you or whatever. So we're going to give you the same four questions that were put before the church, and basically you're going to give an up-down vote. This one, that one, those questions are yes, no. We do provide some preamble to help you kind of interpret, as you were saying, what does that all mean? But I think if you want to answer those questions as a congregation, you're going to have to do your homework. You're going to have to read the statements, you're going to have to pray about it, you're going to have to think about it, you're going to have to discuss it, which I'm open to doing. We've had previous sessions on it, but we're always willing to talk about it again. Go ahead, Rita, really.
I'm going to piggyback onto what he's saying. I'm assuming this questionnaire is going out to all confirmed members.
Right.
Okay. As an adult, I have a great deal of trouble understanding what those statements read. I'm excited that the youth are going to have an opportunity to be participants in this, but if I don't understand it, and I know my Lutheran background, how are junior high students going to understand this? And, you know, I can see where it could be beneficial saying what this says is. I mean, you read the whole thing, and what it says is, you will ordain gays, you will not ordain gays. I mean, that is why I can certainly understand where Paul is
coming.
coming.
Well, I'll take that into consideration and we'll talk about it as a council and see if there's a way to do that. Larry is already churning on that, I'm sure. You can see the wheels churning. Here's the danger.
But it is a challenge.
Here's the challenge. The challenge is you've got a team of people interpreting what they meant.
Right.
And so we could do a good job of that, or we could do a terrible job of that.
And
we do a terrible job of that, and then we go out and ask you to answer terrible questions. So, you
but
know,
at
we
the
have
same
to be
time,
real
you have
careful.
a 14-year-old interpreting what they're trying to say.
It sounds like you're saying that if the statement could be then interpreted to say impact, what the impact would be.
Yeah, what does it mean?
This is how that would be lived out.
Right. Yeah.
And it's doubly complicated because the ELCA and the synods themselves, some of the things that are approved in there, the terminology, they have not worked out what
it means
and the process is going to be.
So I'm going to try and interpret something that hasn't been
That's why I have a
interpreted.
concern.
That's where you can get hung up.
So
So, for example, the issue of recognition of homosexual relationships. They haven't defined what recognition means, and frankly, the bishops are spinning because they've been unable to.
Yeah.
So you're sort of endorsing a word that hasn't been defined. So that's
We'll take that away. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I've read the statement several times, and you do have to. It's going to take a while if you want to answer those questions properly. You've got to be prepared. You've got to read the materials. You've got to think about it. You've got to reread it. You've got to talk with people if there are questions and you don't understand it. But I'll take that away. We'll talk about it for council. Yeah.
Well, and guys have a responsibility here.
Yeah, we got your input.
I think the key thing, the key thing though is, Joe, if the dual intent of this thing is to be able to fit square peg, square hole with the senior pastor. We have got, the art is putting it together so people understand, as well as we can define it for our congregation, so that pastor looks at it and says, yeah, that's kind of what I'm matching up with. And I understand, I commend you all for doing that, because I think that's important. But it's going to be, I wouldn't be, I'm glad I'm not the guy having to write these questions down and figure it out, because I've read it several times too. I know we all have, and it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions is, do you support the human sexuality statement? I can't summarize that. There are too many implications associated with it. What you have to do is you have to go out and read it. If you don't understand it, then you have to go talk to somebody. I mean, and you would hope that the people who attended the church-wide assembly did the same thing and really prayed and thought about it and talked about it, et cetera, et cetera. I hope they did.
Joe,
Okay, we have about 10 minutes.
you'll have to forgive me, but this is the educator coming out, especially when we're talking about you. Does the Synod or even ELCA worldwide have a webinar on the topic that could be presented in an educational format?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, they have resources that you can go out to, web pages that obviously talk about the whole
Right.
thing.
But
And,
it's in the summer.
yeah, we provide that information, but there's nothing that is interactive, if you will, or, where you can actually view it as a,
Or where,
As pastor, right now, what we're getting a lot of is have faith, pray. We're working hard to work this out, be patient. The bishops have not yet been able to come, in my understanding, to come to consensus on the meaning of terms or how one would implement the actions of the church-wide assembly. So until they do that, they can't webinar it because they don't really have anything substantive to say.
I don't know, webinar.
it's just a web thing, you can go out and you can listen to it and see it. It's basically a seminar on the web.
You're welcome.
And when we gather as pastors in the synod, it's a really interesting situation. There is no one opinion. There's the full diversity and full conversation. And God bless the bishop, because he's riding a high wire. I mean, he's really got a situation. So,
Okay, let me look down my list real quick. We have about 10 minutes now. It's my turn. Okay, so I want to tell you a few things. I hope we addressed as many of your. We'll do this again next month, and just continue the dialogue so it's not over. And obviously, I'm always available. You know my phone number. You got my email. Some people have my BlackBerry. I don't give that out very often, but. Yeah, right. But let me tell you a few things. Stockings for Soldiers was a huge success. Thank you to the congregation for that. We got back some great feedback. We saw it in the monthly. And kudos to Kelly and the other ladies, Shaw Ministry, et cetera, all of those people that helped to put that all together. We're in Knights Welcome season now, and we've done 2 Knights Welcome so far. First Presbyterian Church in Hampton and Community Presbyterian last week. Again, kudos to everybody who supported that, primarily out of discipleship groups. We have St. Paul's coming up, not sure when. I believe it's in March sometime. Kelly's still working that one, so this is another opportunity there. Mitten Tree is still going on. Sunday school next week. The kids will decorate bags, Valentine hearts and candies and things like that, and make those mittens available to the homeless through the Knights Welcome program.